Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Who's feeling victorious? Good morning, Amy Jacobson here. John Anthony in for Dan Proft. He's on a buddy's golfing trip.
Uh-oh.
They're having a little sleepover, which always sounds just weird when dudes...
Watching the movie, Bro?
I don't know. When dudes do that, it's whatever.
Are they watching the movie, Bro?
I don't know. Oh, stop it. Real quick programming note from our last the conversation we had last segment. There is a meeting tonight at the Broadway Armory at 6 o'clock. Be there. Voice your concern if you can. I'm actually going to stop by. We'll see if I can. Hopefully, I'll have a hard time getting in because I'm hoping enough residents realize that we can't give these 6 courts and the community room and the weight room that seniors use just away to 300 migrants.
Yeah.
Because there's no space left.
It's a beautiful place, too. I forgot about that place.
You've been there, right?
Yeah, I forgot about it. Totally.
And they have so much to offer our children and even adult leagues. They have adult volleyball and basketball leagues. So 6 o'clock tonight at the Broadway Armory.
Basketball there.
Yeah. Quinn McCarthy had his son's birthday party there.
Oh, nice.
So hopefully Quinn will be at that meeting. Quinn, I'll see you there. I'll save you a seat. All right, the big news yesterday. Where were you when you heard the news that the plea deal for Hunter Biden fell apart completely? And KJP says, no, this isn't your business. This is none of your business.
Hunter Biden is a private citizen, and this was a personal matter for him. As we have said, the president, the first lady, they love their son, and they support him as he continues to rebuild his life.
When he was a senator, crafted gun legislation. As president, he talks often about the need to get illegal firearms off of our streets. So when someone possesses one illegally, what does the president believe should happen to them?
I'm going to be very careful because I see where this question is going, and I'm just going to refer you, as this has been an independent investigation. It's overseen by the Department of Justice. I'm going to let them speak to this as they are moving forward.
Well, he's not a private citizen. If he's working with his father, who's president of the United States, then vice president, to violate foreign lobbying law. So why did the deal fall apart? Let's begin there with Attorney William Jacobson, clinical professor of law and director of Security Law Clinic at Cornell Law School, founder of LegalInsurrection.com. I suggest you check that out. And president of Legal Insurrection Foundation. Good morning, Mr. Jacobson. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I'm sure you're well-versed on what happened yesterday, but for us non-attorney-like people, tell us exactly what happened and why the deal fell apart.
Right. Well, it wasn't broadcast, unfortunately. Federal courts don't do that. And I don't think I've seen a transcript. So we know what was reported by various people who were in the courtroom, and the plea deal has been published online. I don't know if it was officially released. And it appears what happened is the judge was uncomfortable with the terms that the government and Hunter Biden were going to agree to because it was unclear to what extent other charges, other than the 2 tax charges and other than the weapons form charge, what else was he being released from? And that was unclear, and it is unclear. And it looked like, and it certainly looks like now, that it was more than a sweetheart deal, that not only did he get favorable treatment on the tax charges and the gun charge, but that the agreements seem to absolve him of any further prosecutions for just about anything else he's done. And that was what she, according to reports, was heavily questioning them about, is what does this include? And then according to reports, the prosecution and Hunter Biden's attorney disagreed on what it included, right in open court. And that's when they called off the deal, and then they came back and they tried to work it out. Long story short is this was a sweetheart deal written by Joe Biden's Department of Justice for Hunter Biden, his son, which would have gotten him no jail time, no real punishment, and would have absolved him of all future prosecutions for unrelated crimes if this had sailed through, but the judge said she needed more information. She hasn't denied it or rejected it. She just said, I'm not prepared right now to approve it.
And would more information mean, Devin Archer testifying before the House committee on Monday? Would that information go into her assessment of what's happening?
I don't think so. I think she wanted to understand better what was included in this plea agreement and what wasn't, and what the impact would be on future possible prosecutions. For example, Hunter Biden failing to register as a foreign agent. I think that either came up in court, or that's what a lot of people are talking about, because he was acting on behalf of foreign governments in his dealings in the U.S., likely including with his father. So that is unclear. She's not going to say he's guilty of anything or not anything that's not charged, in this court proceeding. But that is the issue. I don't think the Devin Archer testimony, the testimony as to IRS, alleged corruption on this, giving him favorable treatment, that some whistleblowers have said, I don't think any of that's going to influence her. But she doesn't want to, I think in her words, according to reports, be a rubber stamp for a very fishy agreement.
And now, if I or John here did not pay taxes on $1.5 million in income, what would happen to us?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's pretty crazy when you read the plea agreement and other things, reciting how much money he didn't report. If you or I didn't report $10,000 or $20,000, or now $600, I think the rule is, if you do it through an electronic app. If we didn't report that, we'd suffer some serious consequences. These are millions of dollars that he's not reporting. But even worse than that, why is this guy getting paid millions of dollars? What was he doing for it? And what he was doing for it, he was being Joe Biden's son. That's what he was doing for it.
And getting access and all that information. I mean, this big Biden lie is slowly unraveling. And I just want to point out to people that in 2019, Hunter Biden texted his daughter this: I hope you can all do what I did and pay for everything for the entire family for 30 years. It's really hard. But don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary.
Wow.
So, I mean.
Yeah, that's the thing here. And there's the big guy. There's, I think, either a text message or an email about 10% for the big guy. Who's the big guy? Well, we know who it is. There's a what appears to be a text message. I don't know if that's disputed, that it's real, that came out recently about, my father is sitting with me as he's shaking down a foreign, businessman, and threatening that we will never forget this. There will be problems for you if you don't pay the money. And he, of course, paid the money pretty quickly. So, and allegedly, Joe Biden was in the room when that happened. Yeah. The same Joe Biden who said, I never talked to my son about his business, not even once. So Joe Biden's been, at a minimum, he's been lying about all of this. Whether that constitutes a crime, whatever, is a different discussion. But Joe Biden, based on what we know now, has been lying when he said, I never discussed my son's business with my son.
And Mr. Jacobson, which leads me, I caught you on the Tony Katz show a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was, and you discussed about putting together a Biden impeachment committee. I didn't realize this is who this was that we would be speaking to today, and I love illegalinsurrection.com, one of the best websites for information. But if they would create a J6 committee, why not create a Biden impeachment committee?
Well, I think they should, and that was, what I proposed is that I think, walk before you run. Don't go right to, an impeachment vote. I think the government cannot be trusted to reveal the information. I think there's no trust that at least half the public has in the Department of Justice to do the right thing here with Joe Biden's son. And I think the only way information is going to come out is if there is a public hearing. Now, maybe portions of it might need to be behind closed doors, but for the most part, a public hearing about the Biden family's alleged corruption, because this is the president of the United States. It's a candidate for the presidency. We know that there was a cover-up prior to the 2020 election. We know that there was an attempt to falsely suggest that his laptop, which contained a lot of these documents and information, was Russian disinformation, when the FBI knew that it wasn't, when it could have swayed the presidential election in 2020. I think we need to get to the bottom of this. We can't just sweep it under the rug and, allow the media to paper this over and say, move on, it's over, it happened a long time ago, it's his son, he loves his son. Well, yes, I'm glad that Joe Biden loves his son. That's good. Yeah. But the fact is, he's the president of the United States, and he's running for re-election, and we need to know if he was on the take or not.
And he knew his son was addicted to crack and all of that, and he gave his son access to millions of dollars. That moral character right there will always stick with me. I would just never do that. But anywho, so what's next? I know they're going to reconvene, because normally when you make a plea, isn't that normally a slow day in court? Like normally the defense and prosecution hammer things out before entering the courtroom.
Sure.
Because that's why I was surprised at what happened. I think millions of Americans were as well.
Well, right. I mean, most of these things are not contentious or not contested in court. If there is something to be contested, it's dealt with in advance. I mean, the judge said she didn't want to be a rubber stamp, but the reality is in most cases the court is a rubber stamp because there's nothing unusual about what's happening. The plea deals is within the realm of what the judge has probably seen hundreds of times. The plea agreement is in a form that the judge has seen hundreds of times. There's nothing to be concerned about. But here, this judge, who's probably done this hundreds of times, said, wait a second, something's not right here. This doesn't smell right. This is fishy. I need to know more. In this case, I am not going to be a rubber stamp like I might be in a routine plea deal that happens virtually every day in courts around the country.
And this is really important. I don't know if you heard about this, John Anthony, but this started the night before the plea deal. There was someone who called to strike the whistleblower's testimony from the transcript, and the judge traced the phone call, and it linked back to an associate of Hunter Biden's lawyer. So don't you think the judge had a bad taste in her mouth when she entered the courtroom yesterday?
Well, that might have been part of it. That might have been. And the lawyer involved is denying it, saying that the clerk misunderstood, and the clerk, according to what's been released, is not misunderstanding. So the judge is going to have to resolve that. But there was that accusation, not from a newspaper, but from the clerk's office, that they felt they were misled, and the court ordered that submissions be made, and I don't think those have been made public yet, or at least not the result of them. And judges listen to the radio and watch TV and read websites and maybe even get a paper if they're old school. So she has to have been aware that there was a controversy about what, even if it was accepted by the court, and even without letting off for other unspecified crimes, was a sweetheart deal. She had to know, and I think that the House of Representatives put in some sort of filing with her court. So she had to know that this was a very watched sort of proceeding, that the world was watching to see whether she would, in fact, rubber stamp this sweetheart deal. And I'm not saying she's not eventually going to do that, but she's not going to do it blindly. She's not going to do it, blessing some sort of black box that she doesn't know all the details to. So I think it's very, very possible that Hunter Biden will get away with his tax charges and will get away with the gun charge. I think it's probably unlikely that he will get away with the equivalent of a universal pardon for everything else he's done, particularly the representation acting on behalf of foreign government.
And immunity going forward in the future. That's whatever. But this gun charge, why wasn't it a felony? I mean, he had somebody drop it off in a park garbage can, and then Secret Service went and picked it up. I mean, that's so shady.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what this one is, or this is lying on the form to get a gun license.
Yeah, it's
what this one was lying on the form. And so, that's
myself.
This is the other one should be charged, but I don't think it is here. But it might be absolved in this. And that's an issue too. So the issue here is that he lied on his form for his gun permit, on his federal form for the background check, and that was, this is the Gun Control Administration. This is the crackdown on lawful gun owner administration, and he's not even going to plead guilty to it. It's going to be a diversion program which is usually for lesser offenses, whereas you stay out of trouble for 2 years, the charge gets permanently dismissed. So he's not even going to plead guilty to it, unlike the tax charge. It's going to go away. It's going to be wiped out if he doesn't do anything wrong for 2 years, which I think he probably will. Okay,
and Biden might just pardon him. Period. Point blank. These Democrats don't think like Republicans do. Biden just might pardon him outright. They don't care about the fallout.
Well, all I know is Hunter Biden had to go back to the White House because they're protecting him. So it's 6 more weeks until they go back to court. He can't go home to L.A. They have to protect him. So the safest place for him to be is in the White House.
They have to keep him locked up. They do.
They do.
Because part of the deal is that he can't, do drugs, and he can't. So they're going to have to keep him, locked up for 2 years if this thing goes through, because that will be one of the conditions of his release. And the plea deal is that he not do drugs, and that's, I feel sorry for anybody who's addicted like that. I mean, but it's going to be very difficult for him to comply with that.
Well, he didn't look good yesterday going into court. I can tell you that much. Guilt is a terrible thing. It shows on your body. All right, doctor. Hey, you're a doctor now. I'm no relation. Attorney William Jacobson, we're going to have to leave it there for today, but thank you so much. He is the clinical professor of law and director of Securities Law Clinic at Cornell Law School and founder of legalinsurrection.com. That's legalinsurrection.com. I suggest you check it out.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson.